If one day you are driving through the mountains of California and, in just 5 seconds, the mountain behind you suddenly collapses, the ground cracks open, the highway disappears, your car is hurled off a cliff hundreds of meters high, what would you do to survive? In today's movie, a super earthquake wipes out nearly all of California. Skyscrapers collapse. The Golden Gate Bridge is crushed. A tsunami as tall as a building crashes straight into the city. And amidst this hell, a father must navigate through earthquakes, fires, landslides, and tsunamis to rescue his own family. This is San Andreas. Today, we will see how they survived the greatest disaster in American history. The setting takes place in Los Angeles, California, in the San Fernando Valley. A girl is driving about 16 miles north of the city, with lively music in her ears. She occasionally glances down to check her phone messages. However, she is completely unaware of the danger looming right before her eyes. A sudden landslide is approaching. In the blink of an eye, her car is lifted by a massive force, thrown up the mountain, and then tumbles down into the deep abyss. Just as she thinks she is about to fall into the void, luck smiles upon her. A large rock and some sturdy tree branches break her fall, saving her life at the brink of death. She desperately searches for her phone and sends out a weak distress signal. Our brave rescuer is Gaines, a former rescue operative who served in Afghanistan. After leaving the military, he chose to return to Los Angeles to continue his beloved work in aerial rescue. Over the years, he has successfully saved hundreds of people in dire situations. Upon receiving the distress signal, Gaines quickly pilots his helicopter straight to the San Fernando Valley. However, due to the narrow canyon terrain, it is challenging for the helicopter to approach the scene directly. Relying on his extensive experience and superior flying skills, he circles above the car, looking for an opportunity to rescue. Finally, he skillfully employs a lateral maneuver, hovering the helicopter in a position extremely close to the cliff. Both the photographer and reporter on board hold their breath, filled with anxiety and fear. Meanwhile, the rescue team quickly springs into action, securing the car with specialized cables. But due to the car's massive inertia, one rescue worker gets stuck. At the same time, the helicopter begins to sway due to the overload. In this hair-raising situation, Gaines does not hesitate for a moment. He lowers himself down the cable to pull the girl out of the car. Immediately after, he decisively orders his team to cut the cable, letting the car fall into the abyss. In the end, he once again successfully completes the rescue mission. In a lecture hall at the California Institute of Technology, Professor Lawrence is sharing his profound research on earthquakes with students. A curious student asks whether the San Andreas Fault causes earthquakes. The professor patiently explains that this fault generates a major earthquake in California approximately every 150 years. Currently, we have experienced over 100 years of calm, and when the next major earthquake will occur remains a mystery. After class, Dr. Kim shows Professor Lawrence data from Falco, Nevada. In just 24 hours, there have been 23 minor earthquakes, with magnitudes ranging from 2.0 to 2.6 on the Richter scale. This location is only about 5 miles from Hoover Dam. They believe that if they can capture information about the increase in electrical signals, they will prove their earthquake prediction theory is entirely accurate. Therefore, both rush to the dam with specialized equipment. After a series of tests, they are astonished to find that their theory aligns perfectly with reality. However, just as they are about to celebrate their victory, the equipment suddenly displays extremely strong electrical signals, warning of a horrific earthquake about to strike. At the same time, the dam begins to tremble violently, and large cracks quickly spread. Everyone evacuate the dam immediately. Run, hurry, stay away from the barriers. No, close your eyes. In the horrific collapse of the dam, Dr. Kim sacrifices his precious life. As for Gaines, after completing the tense rescue mission, he plans to spend some time resting with his family. However, upon stepping into his home, he is met with divorce papers from his wife. His wife, Emma, has begun a new relationship with Daniel, a wealthy upper-class man. Tonight, Emma and their daughter Blake will have dinner with this man. Gaines feels an overwhelming sense of loss. He flips through old family photos, lost in memories of happier times, now facing loneliness alone. Shortly after, Gaines receives orders to head to Hoover Dam for rescue operations. Meanwhile, Daniel takes Blake to San Francisco for a meeting, combining it with a trip to Seattle to watch a volleyball game. Back in the lab, Professor Lawrence is still struggling to cope with the sudden loss of his colleague Kim. At this moment, a female reporter approaches him, asserting that Kim's sacrifice must not be in vain. They must announce their earthquake prediction results to the world. Just as the professor is preparing to release the data, his assistant rushes in with the latest reports. It turns out that the indicators in the San Andreas fault area are fluctuating abnormally once again. This immediately alerts Lawrence to the situation. He realizes that the line connecting San Andreas to Hoover Dam perfectly aligns with the flow of the river, which is actually formed by the deformation of tectonic plates. This means that this line is the boundary between continental plates. The entire California region is situated right on the dangerous edge. The strange phenomena they have observed are signs of tectonic shifts, predicting an unprecedented super earthquake that will wipe everything away. At the same time, Blake and Daniel arrive at the Riddick building in San Francisco. Since Daniel has to go upstairs for an important meeting, he tells Blake to wait in the lobby. There, Blake coincidentally meets Taylor, a young engineer coming for an interview, accompanied by his mischievous younger brother, Ollie. Before heading upstairs for the interview, Taylor reminds Ollie to behave and not cause trouble. However, Ollie quickly strikes up a conversation and hits it off with Blake. In another development, Emma is meeting with Susan, Daniel's sister. Susan is a straightforward woman who does not hesitate to bring up the unfortunate incident involving Emma's second daughter, which weighs heavily on Emma's mood. Just then, Emma receives a call from Gaines. Gaines wants to apologize for his harsh words during their meeting yesterday and shares his thoughts about what their daughter is feeling regarding their divorce. Suddenly, the entire building begins to shake violently. The great earthquake has struck without warning. Knowing Emma is at a restaurant on the rooftop, Gaines frantically shouts for everyone to evacuate to the roof, assuring them he will fly in to rescue her at all costs. How devastating is this earthquake? Data from the professor indicates that the entire San Andreas fault is roaring violently and rapidly spreading toward San Francisco. In San Francisco, Blake has just said goodbye to Ollie and is about to leave the parking garage with Daniel when the tremors hit without warning. Daniel's driver remains extremely calm and decisive, immediately stepping on the gas to speed out. However, the parking garage suddenly fractures and collapses, sending the car plummeting to the second basement level. The driver dies instantly, while Blake's legs are trapped in the car. Unable to move, Daniel panics and decides to go outside to find help. However, a large rock suddenly falls, leaving him terrified. In his extreme fear, he heartlessly abandons Blake. At this moment, Taylor and Ollie see Daniel rushing out alone without Blake. They immediately realize something is wrong and that Blake must be trapped under the car. In the helicopter, Gaines is horrified as he looks down at the city crumbling in the earthquake, the ground appearing to be clawed apart by a giant beast. Oh my God! Emma struggles to muster all her strength to run up to the rooftop for safety, the terrifying tremors making her feel dizzy. She sees Gaines risking everything to approach, but the scene before her tells her that conventional rescue methods are now completely useless. The building across from them is swaying, on the verge of collapse. In a moment of life and death, Emma bets her life and jumps. Fortunately, she lands on a rescue net and survives. Meanwhile, Blake is still trapped under the parking garage, slowly descending into utter despair. She hurriedly calls her father, but before she can finish, the signal is completely cut off. Although Gaines is anxiously trying to reach her, he still needs more time. Just when Blake feels most hopeless, Taylor and Ollie appear like heroes. They disregard their own safety, despite the building potentially collapsing at any moment. Using their ingenuity by combining hydraulic jacks and tire deflation methods, they successfully rescue Blake from the rubble, bringing her out of the dead zone. The earthquake seems to have calmed down, but Professor Lawrence, with his keen instincts, realizes this is just the prelude to the disaster. He must find a way to convey this vital information to everyone. At this moment, Blake finds some components at a telecommunications equipment store and successfully assembles a communication device. She and her father agree to meet at Coit Tower on the hilltop. Meanwhile, after learning that Daniel cowardly abandoned their daughter to escape alone, Emma is furious. She immediately leaves a message severing ties with him. Gaines and Emma decide to head straight into San Francisco to rescue their daughter. However, the helicopter can no longer hold steady, and they are forced to make an emergency landing. Fortunately, thanks to Gaines's superior flying skills, both are safe. They borrow an abandoned car in the chaos and continue their journey to San Francisco. However, a massive crack from the San Andreas fault appears, blocking their path and preventing them from proceeding by road. Luck smiles upon them once more. as a kind elderly couple helps them find an agricultural plain. While refueling, Gaines and Emma finally open up, resolving the issues stemming from the death of their second daughter. Their relationship begins to mend. As they fly to San Francisco, unable to find a suitable landing area, they have no choice but to parachute out, leaving the plane to crash into the Pacific Ocean. Ready? It's been a while since I've had the chance to take you out like this. Ha ha ha. Meanwhile, Professor Lawrence has just experienced an aftershock even stronger than before, but he believes the tremors here will soon pass, as San Francisco is the true epicenter of the disaster. Since Coit Tower has been completely destroyed in the earthquake, Blake's group must change their original plan and move toward the second highest mountain. Just then, another massive earthquake strikes. All the skyscrapers shake violently. Gaines quickly directs everyone to find a safe shelter. He realizes that with this level of devastation, they can no longer traverse the city to find Blake. But Gaines always has a solution. He decides to drive a speedboat around to find his daughter. In another development, Professor Lawrence informs his students that the magnitude of this earthquake has reached 9.6 on the Richter scale, a record never before seen. Gaines observes the coastal waters receding rapidly and immediately understands a massive tsunami is about to hit. Blake also receives a tsunami warning and decides to take everyone to the building that Daniel constructed for shelter. Despite Daniel's character being despicable, this building is undoubtedly one of the most solid structures, facing towering walls of water rushing toward them. Gaines and Emma do not hesitate. They accelerate straight ahead to outrun the waves. Go, go! At that moment, a massive cargo ship riding the waves suddenly appears right in front of them. Fortunately, they manage to steer away just in time, avoiding a catastrophic collision. However, Daniel on the Golden Gate Bridge is not so lucky. The giant ship crashes into the bridge, and Daniel is swept away by the enormous shipping containers. The tsunami quickly engulfs all of San Francisco, leaving no one able to escape this horrific disaster. Blake's group is hiding in the building, which, combined with the surrounding structures, forms a solid, protective triangle, helping them withstand the powerful onslaught of the waves. Amidst the debris after the deluge, Gaines and Emma frantically search for their daughter. Just then, Ollie spots them. Blake quickly uses a laser pen to signal for help. Gaines sees the green dot on the boat, immediately turns around, and discovers his daughter right behind him. However, just as they are overjoyed, the sturdy building suddenly begins to collapse and sink. Blake's group is swept away in the water. Witnessing this scene, Gaines is transported back to the painful moment when his second daughter met her fate. This time, he vows to protect Blake with his own life. He dives deep into the water, finds his daughter who is about to drown, but all conventional rescue methods have become futile. With a roar of determination, Gaines pounds on the door with all his might. Finally, he manages to pull Blake out. At this point, the building is swaying and about to collapse. They need to break through the glass wall to escape. In a decisive moment, Emma drives the speedboat straight into the wall, smashing it to rescue everyone. The once thought indestructible skyscraper finally collapses completely. Gaines continuously performs CPR on his daughter, but Blake shows no signs of life. Just when Gaines thinks all hope is lost, Blake finally awakens. Their family is reunited at last. Although the city is now nothing but rubble, as long as people are alive, hope will always exist. San Andreas is considered a blockbuster masterpiece of Hollywood in 2015. With overwhelming auditory and visual experiences, along with a delicate emotional core, the film has achieved a breakthrough in balancing special effects and storytelling. Director Brad Peyton set the scene for the super earthquake in California caused by the San Andreas Fault, skillfully intertwining apocalyptic imagery with the salvation of humanity. The film satisfies expectations for disaster spectacles while creating deep empathy in viewers. It employs over 1.300 visual effects shots to construct an epic disaster narrative. The 3D technology further enhances the audience's sense of breathlessness. Although the director intentionally downplays scientific logic regarding earthquakes to focus on sensory explosions for viewers, the film is still regarded as having a visual impact that exceeds expectations. While this direct approach has been criticized for being overly reliant on grand visuals, it strikes a chord with the entertainment psychology of disaster films. Nevertheless, the film is not without the limitations of its genre. The Washington Post criticized the somewhat cliched plot, high archetypal characterizations, and the earthquake rules having to yield to the script, resulting in noticeable scientific inaccuracies. However, as noted by the New Entertainment Daily, The film uses familial bonds to evoke tears from the audience, and the personal charm of Dwayne Johnson fills in the logical gaps. San Andreas uses an apocalyptic backdrop to reflect the resilience of familial love. It may not be a classic masterpiece in film history, but with precise industrial calculations, it proves that when a disaster film does not merely wallow in destruction but instead looks back at the people embracing each other amidst the ruins. It transcends conventional clichés, helping viewers find hope in the aftermath of intense moments. Stepping out of the theater. The message, if this world collapses, we will always be together, is the warmest and most precious aftertaste that a disaster film can offer. This is the beat to the movie. Thank you for following along with us through this film. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next episodes.